Right, welcome back. I've started work on the fuselage, as you can see. I've done a bit of sanding of some moulding lines on the ribs, both sides, as you can see. The line actually went all the way down there and onto the actual pointed part of the fuselage, so I've sanded all that away as well, both sides. Then I had a bit of gap work to do on the venting around the back here. As you can see where I've sanded it, filled it and then sanded it down, you can see all the gap issues I've had. Around the back there I had a bit of a seam I had to sand down and fill where them two vents meet at the back. And then turn that round, again you can see a bit more filling and sanding I've had to do, as you can see there. But now all the sanding's been done, this is now ready for re-primering, just around where I've filled and sanded. Stay with me. Right, work continues on the Batwing. Firstly, you can see that I've primed my upper fuselage where I'd sanded down and filled in and then re-sanded. So all that's re-primed. I've also started painting the rib section for me chrome bit there. Much like the other bits that I put in the wing, like I said, I'd stripped it, painted it in the silver and then dry brushed it in the X23, so that is now ready to go in once that paint's dry. I've also done a bit of work on the interior cockpit, made up a bit of silver wash with some water and some silver paint, and basically just dry brushed the backrest of the seat to bring out those rib sections, and just wash the actual seat where he sits on. You see there's a bit of wear and tear on that seat. And I've also washed the interior cockpit dashboard. You can't, just to bring out the dials a bit more, it's not 100%, but to be honest, once the canopy's on, you're not going to see all that anyway. My Batman figure that I made out of them toy soldiers. If you remember, Riddler destroyed all the bat suits and he'd only got the sonar prototype. But if you remember, the sonar prototype is like a dark silvery colour. So I painted that in my gunmetal. And in the bottom part of his facial features, I've just painted that in the flesh. So my figure's now ready to go into the cockpit once the wash is dry. You can see I've primed the underneath of the bottom fuselage and I've primed the rear wing. So the two parts of the rear wing, you glue those together, I taped them together, and then I've just got to sand down that seam there, and then obviously re-primer it. But that's where I'm sitting at the moment. Stay with me. Right, work continues on the Batwing. You can see that I've glued the top half and the bottom half of the fuselage together, along with the cockpit and my Batman figure. And basically what I did, the steering wheel, I glued that into the dashboard. After I washed the dashboard, I then painted the steering wheel black. There's a little Batman motif on the middle of the steering wheel, I painted that in gunmetal. Let that dry. Then once that was dry, I then put my Batman figure into the cockpit and then put the dashboard into place, because just underneath there is where his feet is. The actual steering wheel stopped him from moving, so I couldn't get his feet out, so obviously I had to put the Batman figure in before the dashboard. The Batman figure is basically glued on his bottom, and then the feet under the dashboard will hold him in perfectly, as you can see. You can even turn it upside down. Right. Then, basically onto the top half of the fuselage, I'd already glued that insert in there, because that's the black, the same colour as the upper fuselage. So I glued that in, then primed it obviously. Then I got my chrome insert. You put that in first, as you can see, just behind that insert, and then you put the completed cockpit into place. Now right underneath there you can see there's a mounting tab and a little mounting notch, because there's a little pinhole in the mounting tab which is about here. So you just push that into place, and then basically just ran the glue all the way around the top half of the cockpit and the little mounting tab and notch, and just let them dry. Once that was dry, then I glued the top half and the bottom half of the fuselage together. So basically what I did on the top half of the fuselage, I just ran the glue all the way around the rear pointed section there. No glue there, because that's where the wings lock into place. And then round the front section here, round the little arch, and the other side of the front section, just ran my glue. And then just got my bits of tape, piece there, piece there, piece there, piece there, both sides. Piece there, and one round the arch. And just let that dry overnight. As you can see, it's glued lovely. I've got some seam issues to deal with, as you can see, on both sides. But not looking too bad at all. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment. Stay with me. Right, a bit more work on the Batwing. As you can see, I've now glued the side wings into place, because if you remember from my previous update, there was like a hole and a little extended piece which the wings go into and sit on top of. So basically, I just ran the glue round that bit there where there was an extra bit. There was actually a thing on the side of the wing, so I put some glue on there so that locks into the underneath, and then put some glue around that line, and turning it over, put some glue on that line as well with that little extender piece. You can see I've got a massive gap issue on the bottom section there, so I've got to fill those in. Turning this back over, I've got a gap issue there as well, and probably a bit of sanding to do where the two joints of the fuselage and the wing meet. But it's not looking too bad at the moment, not too bad at all. Stay with me. Right, welcome back. Work continues on the Batwing. If you remember from the previous update where I glued the wings in, I had a bit of a gap issue to deal with. Well, you can see I've filled in the gaps on the top. I've also sanded them down with my files. I've also gone round the arches where the wings meet the fuselage. On that side I had a bit of a hole, even though I did put it in properly, so I had to fill that, and you can just about see the filler there, and I've sanded that. So that's the top done. Turning this over and leaning it on my paint tubs. There we go. If you remember from like I said, from the previous update, I had massive gaps on the bottom here, so I filled those in and sanded those down, and they look a hell of a lot better than they did. You can see right at the back there where I've sanded, I had to put up just a touch more filler in there and there, at the back there, and sanded that down around the arches. Turning this back over again, doing this one-handed, you can see that I've put the rear wing on as per the plans. Like I said, you glue the two halves together, and then I've primed it obviously. I've sanded all the seam down where you glue them together all the way around, and then basically what I did is I ran the glue from the back edge to the middle where the mounting tab is, put some glue on the mounting tab both sides, and then that little bit at the front, put some glue there, and then mounted it into the hole. As it says on the plans, there's a hole just underneath here, and then push that down. And then what I did, I couldn't tape it on the back at all, so I just put a strip of tape on the front here, and then manoeuvred it into place to make it as straight as I possibly could. And as you can see, it's actually dried straight. I'm well chuffed with that, not bad at all. And then each side I had a bit of a gap issue, So again with the filler, I filled it in, let it dry, and then I've sanded that down. So the construction is complete, bar the canopy. So all I've got to do now is just remask off. I probably should have left the tape on, to be honest. Remask off, probably with some newspaper. I'll probably mask off the entire wing with some newspaper and some tape, and just re-primer those lines where I've filled in where the filler is, and I've sanded that down. Like I said, I'm on the home stretch now. Stay with me. Right, welcome back. As you can see, with the newspaper and the masking tape, I've masked the wings off and everything I needed to be covered, so I could re-primer the lines where I've filled in and sanded. What's puzzling me is a line still remains there and there, as you can see. Around the side of the wing where I've filled and sanded, that's blended in really well, but that line just won't disappear no matter how many times I sand it and refill it. Going to the bottom, again, a line still remains, but the channel's gone. It's just a line still remains. I just can't be asked to keep re-primering it and sanding it, re-primering it, sanding it, re-primering and sanding it. So I'm just going to put that down to a panel line. Screw it. So turning this back over. So all I've got to do now is just take this newspaper and tape off, and this is ready for paint. Stay with me.